Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor and this great pleasure of declaring the 30th Lawyers' Conference within the framework of the Kopaonik School of Natural Law, entitled Just Law and Reality, open. Welcome. I wish you a very pleasant stay on Mountain Kopaonik, a lot of success in your work, and I wish you to be in a merry mood. I suggest that the working presidency of this first plenary meeting be composed of the following persons: academician, Professor Dr. Slobodan Perovic, founder of the Kopaonik School of Natural Law, President of the Commission drafting the Civil Code of the Republic of Serbia, Professor Dr. Rajko Kuzmanovic, President of the Academy of Sciences and Arts of Republika Srpska, President of the Jurists Association of Republika Srpska. Dr. Vlado Kambovski, member of the Academy of Sciences and Arts of the Republic of Macedonia and former president of that academy. Dr. Sima Avramovic, Dean of the School of Law of the Belgrade University, Dr. Thomas Mayer, head of the program of the German International Cooperation Organization, GIZ, for Southern Caucasus and Georgia. Ms. Irena Mojovic, judge and deputy president of the Constitutional Court of Republika Srpska. Professor Dr. Zoran Rašović, member of the Montenegrin Academy of Sciences and Arts. Professor Dr. Vitomir Popović, member of the Academy of Sciences and Arts of Republika Srpska. Mr. Xavier Blanc-Jouvin, Professor Emeritus of the Paris I University, Sorbonne, France. Dr. Dragisha Slijepčević, Judge of the Supreme Court of Serbia. Dr. Milan Škulić, member of the Constitutional Court of the Republic of Serbia and President of the Jurists Association of Serbia. Mr. Sami Akl, advisor to the President of the International Lawyers Association, Lebanon. Professor Dr. Nebojša Šarkić, Dean of the School of Law of the Union University. Dr. Dejan Đurđević, Director of the Legislation Secretariat of the Republic of Serbia and Professor of the School of Law in Belgrade. Mr. Ivica Stanković, Supreme State Prosecutor of the Republic of Montenegro. Mr. Miroslav Nikolic, Judge of the Constitutional Court of Serbia. Dr. Dragor Hiber, full professor of the School of Law in Belgrade. Professor Dr. Miodrag Orlic, honorary president of the Jurist Association.
Gaudeamus igitur, juvenes dum sumus. Gaudeamus igitur, juvenes dum sumus. Post iucundam juventutem, post molenstam senectutem, nos habebicumus, nos habebicumus. Vivat Academia, vivat professores, vivat Academia, vivat professores, post iucundam juventutem, post molenstam senectutem, nos habebicumus, nos habebicumus.
Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we have gathered here today on this occasion to round up all our efforts and our activities over the past years. You are well aware of the fact that the Kopaonik School of Natural Law has been a tireless fighter for what is actually the title of our current conference, and it has actually been a fighter for just law. It has been actually a struggle for justice as well as a legal system that will be dominated by justice. Justice is the supreme virtue. However, it is not only that ideal, esoteric phenomenon that noble part of humanity has been aspiring for. Justice is important because just law enables the development of a social community. In a text that was published in 1835, while the author was on his trip to Ireland from Dublin in 1835, Alexis de Tocqueville said the following: when you observe a developed city, or when you realize that a country is prosperous, don't check whether that is because of the ports, which are full of ships loaded with all kinds of goods. Don't try to see whether there are forests in that land, in that country, that have been mercilessly exploited. don't try to establish whether there are any ores and other minerals and other natural wealth there. See what kind of laws have been imposed in that country, whether the legislation and the legal system in the country enable each individual free entrepreneurship, enabling everyone to work diligently, whether all that enables persistence due to reliable politics and policies, and whether each individual is able to reap what he has sown without superfluous taxes, because natural assets without human activities mean nothing. On the other hand, enormous activities by free and entrepreneurial individuals will create wealth even there where natural assets are rather poor. It is up to us to believe or not to believe such a message, whether only the countries that have a proper legal system make progress, or countries where every individual in the country aspires for justice. But we can perhaps establish some tangible results on the other side as well, on the negative side. If you have an intricate legislation where laws are not properly associated or interrelated, where you have a timid judiciary, which during our lifespans has seen two general elections of judge, where hundreds of judges found it difficult to get back to their job posts. So why are we wondering if we are seeing judges being scared in what they're doing and doing their best to avoid non-compliance, strict non-compliance with the law, judges who are strictly complying with the law? So what are the consequences of all that? The consequences are of the kind that one serious daily, and you know which one I am referring to, in Serbia, wrote a couple of days ago. Serbia is going to incur costs amounting to 20 billion dinars as a result of lost cases. This is the first time that such a figure has been presented in the media in a timid way. You know that in the parliament it has been mentioned that the figure has been mentioned in a non-transparent manner. 20 billion dinars, that is more than the entire budget of the Ministry of Health. And this did not include the loss in the dispute that our country had with the company Mykileneos. Our colleague Dean is here, who will correct me in my pronunciation of Greek. But anyway, the sum or the amount is 40 million euros. And now, where are the roots of such losses? They are in the fact that huge damages or compensation for damage within the framework of internal legal proceedings based on ungrounded arrests and detentions. Huge compensation that has to be paid as a result of the cases lost before the European Court of Justice. the losses that we have had, having lost different cases involving foreign companies and cases lost within the framework of arbitration. Everyone should be alert with regard to all this, including all of us here. And we should do our best to contribute as much as possible to improving the entire situation. And that is possible indeed. Jurists on Mountain Kopaonik, all of you who are present here, judges, prosecutors, public attorneys, lawyers working in different companies and banks, in insurance companies, in government authorities, in non-governmental organizations. All of you who have participated in our sessions and who have heard the words of encouragement and support have returned from the conference with lots of enthusiasm to get involved in the process. If we haven't always been recognized the way we should have been, let me remind you that in our vocation, legal profession, we should not always expect either material reward for what this activity or work would deserve, nor sufficient recognition by the environment, particularly where that environment is not a legal environment. Let me remind you, and I shall end my speech with that, what Adam Smith said in reference to the legal profession in his survey and paper regarding the wealth of nations, speaking about the inequalities that stem from the nature of occupations. Adam Smith said that there are jobs which are not adequately rewarded in the material sense. Even though such professions run a huge risk, starting from the period of schooling till later, including the uncertainty regarding the accomplishment of the final objective. You may say, or he said actually, you entrust your health to the doctor of medicine, and sometimes you entrust your own life to a lawyer. But if somebody is to become a lawyer, a jurist, it is necessary to invest a lot and to sustain great risk. If you send your son to school himself for becoming a shoe mender, you can be sure that within a certain period of time, your son will finish the craft and become a shoe mender. However, if you send your son to study law, the chances are 1 to 20 that he will become a professional lawyer. In just lottery, that one should get the reward for all the other 20 who failed. Because when speaking about lottery, the amount of gains and the amount of losses should be equal, but that will never happen, don't fear. And if somebody aged 40 now who has invested a lot in his or her perfectioning is expecting to be able to live decently, now, on the basis of the reward that such person is getting, the person will not be able to get what that person actually deserves. And therefore, in the legal profession, money is not all or everything. That should compensate for the respect shown by the environment. And that's how it used to be back in the olden days. My elderly colleagues, judges, used to speak, to tell me that in the period between the two wars, when you passed along a street as a judge, people would nod their heads, take their hats off, and greet you. But there is also an award that has been denied to us occasionally, and that is that precious feeling that cannot be substituted by anything else in the world. And that is the feeling that you have been active in the field of justice, that you've done all that you could, and that if luck serves you well on occasions, you were able to have a positive result. In such festive or solemn moments of satisfaction, we must all remember that all the support was provided to you from this mountain. And finally, another thing that is necessary, and that is something that Professor Perovic has always referred to when speaking about the sense of justice, and that is oneste vivere. If you want people to entrust to you their own conscience, their integrity, their prejudices also, that they highly esteem in their minds, you always have to bear in mind, no matter what kind of activities you're undertaking, no matter what you're starting to do there, and no matter what kind of people you are in touch with, you will have to bear in mind that everything will run easily for you and that everything will be doable if you yourself are righteous. Dear colleagues, we have got introduced to the rules of the Kopaonik School of Natural Law a long time ago, and you know that even the highest officials are not greeted here individually, because they're all equal here with each one of us. We do give a little priority to judges, though, but of course we don't fail to criticize a little bit the activities of this or that judge occasionally. We are very happy that this year as well our most faithful participants from abroad have also joined us. Mr. Thomas Meyer, who is sitting next to me. A person who has done a lot of good for this country. And I shall never mention saying that he has saved the law on contracts and tort, or the law on obligations in Republika Srpska. We have to bear in mind such achievements in order to be able to expect new ones. Mr. Thomas Meyer is the head of the program of the German Organization for International Cooperation for Southern Caucasus and Georgia. Even though I can say, and I hope he won't mind, he has been here with us for the 16th time now on Kopaonik.
We also have Professor Xavier Blanc-Jouvin, professor of the Paris 1 Panthéon-Sorbonne University, and we are very happy that after a few years that he couldn't make it, he is again today with us. We also have Mr. Sami Akl, advisor to the president of the International Lawyers Union in Paris. He is from Lebanon. You know that three Akl brothers used to participate at Kopaonik, Mr. Sami Akl, Mr. Antoine Akl, and Mr. Paul Abbé Akl, who is now in hospital, and we sent our best wishes for his recovery yesterday. We also have Madam Penny Booth with us. She is a professor at the Open University in UK. She is a wonderful jurist. Distinguished colleagues, now we are move on to the greetings by our distinguished guests, and please make your welcoming remarks as brief as possible. We know that both in this solemn spirit should be disseminated and spread all over this conference and its departments. And I'm going to ask our keynote speakers to be brief in their introductory remarks. And the first speaker will be Dr. Rajko Kuzmanović, President of the Republic of Srpska Academy of Arts and Sciences, and he will set an example and show us the way. So I know very well, and you know very well, if somebody speaks briefly, then they sometimes remain vague. But if they speak for too long, then they become boring and nobody listens to them. Therefore, distinguished participants of this traditional 30th conference, fighters for law and for justice, distinguished presidency, Professor Orlic, distinguished founder of the Kopaonik School of Natural Law, Academician Perovic. It is a great pleasure for me to be here, and I always wish for us to prosper in our efforts to create just law. On behalf of jurists of the Republic of Srpska, I would like to greet you all at this 30th conference of the Kopaonik School of Natural Law. I congratulate you, and I congratulate also to the Jurist Association of Serbia and Professor Slobodan Perovic, who is the spiritus movens of everything that is going on at the Kopaonik School of Natural Law and everything that has been going on with the school for the past 30 years. Theory and the School of Natural Law originated in France, and when it comes to just law that actually under under the influence of positivism, there was a renaissance of natural law here at Mount Kopaonik in Serbia, thanks to the idea and the wisdom and multiple academician Professor Slobodan Perovic. The idea, theory and practice of natural law has been carried on Professor Perovic's shoulders for 30 years now. 30 legendary opening speeches, more than 60,000 participants, more than 150 volumes translated in multiple languages. All this cultural heritage was created here on Mount Kopaonik. Distinguished participants, what is it that actually is a link, has been a link between all of us for 30 years now? That is, first of all, the charisma and wisdom of Professor Perovic and his real philosophy of natural law or just law. His philosophy of just law and natural law is more similar to Rasbrook than Robinson's, because this is the idea of natural law, and the law that does not reject positive law. So I will shorten my intervention here, and finally I wish you plenty of success at this 30th conference, and I wish you more successful conferences to come. But before that, please give me one more minute to say something. This time I would like to offer a book of all books to Professor Perovic, and that is volume 1 of the Encyclopedia of Republic of Srpska that has recently been published. I must say that only 3 people in Serbia should be given a copy. The Patriarch Irene of the Serbian Orthodox Church, the President of the Serbian Academy of Arts and Sciences, and Professor Slobodan Perovic, the founder of the Kopaonik School of Natural Law. Thank you, Dr. Kuzmanovic, for your welcoming remarks and for an elegant way of offering his introductory remarks, and I would personally like to thank him for observing this standard of being brief. So 5 minutes, but not more than 7 minutes for introductory remarks. And now I'd like to invite Dr. Vlado Kambovski, member of the Macedonian Academy of Arts and Sciences and former president of the Macedonian Academy of Arts and Sciences, to take the floor. Distinguished academician Perovic, distinguished Professor Orlic, distinguished presidency, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure, and I'm really very excited to be able to address you on the occasion of 30 years since the foundation of the Kopaonik School of Natural Law, and to be able to welcome you. We are witnessing a historic date that I believe will be marked in all books on history of law and legal science as such. When 30 years ago Professor Perovic launched this initiative and established this school, thanks to his scientific intuition that borders on geniusness and wisdom, he couldn't predict that the Kopaonik School of Natural Law will become so influential and will deserve its supreme place, not only in the Balkans, but elsewhere as well. Over the years, the school has grown into an institution as such. It is not an ordinary conference of jurists. It is an institution that, thanks to its ideas and defense of eternal principles of law that impact our social reality, that we want to bring closer to the ideas of law. We are still living in historic times in which this institution has grown. We have changed several systems from the times of the former Yugoslavia onward, democratic systems, authoritarian systems, and the school has encountered numerous obstacles in both systems, especially in the transition system, where transition was seen through the prism of privatization and political pluralism without the rule of law. And now we are at the point where the other side of the transition process is reopening on the path of European integrations that all our countries in the region are striving for. The EU is a community based on law, so our societies should be back on track of law and the rule of law in order to reach our final destination, and that is the EU. And our school has demonstrated a high degree of vitality without any signs of fatigue. And I'm sure that we are very vital today. We are an observatory that rises above the Balkan region and accepts all the fluctuations in society, all challenges, and theoreticians and practitioners of law offer their wise solutions as to how to address and overcome those challenges. Once again, I wish you a successful 30th conference and many happy returns. And I'm sure that we will be fostering all those values and goals in the future as well. After distinguished presidents of the respective academies of arts and sciences, the dean of the Belgrade University School of Law, who presides over a huge academic community. Distinguished Professor Perovic, members of the presidency, dear friends, Romans, over a period of 5 years called lustrum, believed that this period was a necessary time to purify the nation. And then they started to celebrate the lustrum period as a proof of an idea, a proof of an institution. So now we are in the sixth lustrum of Kopaonik School of Natural Law, since the 30th anniversary. So we have been purging our law or purifying our law for the past 30 years using a special medicine, and that is natural law. The idea of natural law goes back deep into the past, and in every generation it acquires new values. Professor Perovic was brave enough to face the founding principles of natural law and to raise the question whether natural law is a fruit of reason or is of divine origin, as the ancient Greeks would say, or something that is congenital. Nihil est in intellectum quod non erit prius in sensu. This is what Aristotle said. So there is nothing in reason that hasn't previously gone through experience. The culture of natural law is built here at Mount Kopaonik through lifelong learning process and must be cherished both at the individual level and at the institutional level. And this is the very purpose of the Kopaonik School of Natural Law and its founder, Professor Slobodan Perovic, who has done essential things for the Serbian legal science and practice. And for so many years, from the hilltops of Mount Kopaonik, he has been disseminating the natural or true colors of law and differentiates the true colors from artificial colors of law. And on those peaks of Mount Kopaonik, he links theory and practice of natural law, develops the awareness of natural law, and makes a philosophical step forward that makes him not only a great professor of the law school of Belgrade University, but a great thinker and philosopher of law of the 20th and 21st century, because he has a specific way of addressing the dilemma and the dilemma of plurality of principles of natural law. If there are multiple principles, the question is if there is a hierarchy among those principles. And there, Professor Perovic has provided a unique answer to this question that is different from those principles that are based on religious elements. So all the principles have equal value, and the result of this is the famous Kopaonik hexagon of natural law, and it actually has been carved into the memory of everyone that has ever set foot on Mount Kopaonik to attend the Kopaonik School of Natural Law. And Professor Perovic has also understood another ancient sensum. Dulce con utilem is the best combination. So this slogan actually resulted in bringing together hundreds of thousands of jurists on Mount Kopaonik, Dulcer, because people like to ski or to peripatetically share their views in a bar. Some of them come here to score points for the purpose of career advancement, but it's all human and useful. But utile, this element, academician Perovic has managed to actually embed in the conscience, in a dignified and noble way, this idea So whoever has been on Mount Kopaonik Natural School, School of Natural Law, understood the meaning of natural law and realized that fairness and equity are not synonymous, and sometimes it is hard to measure on the scale, especially for judges. Sometimes it's difficult for them to determine what should tip the scale. And this is why this shrine of law and for better legal profession and the improvement of the legal profession, for all of this, the credit goes to Professor Perovic for creating such an informal academic school that hasn't been formally accredited, but it is more valuable and more important than some other accredited schools. So this school is something that Horatius would say exegi monumentum ere perennius, meaning I built a monument to myself more permanent than bronze. So this Kopaonik School of Natural Law is a monument of all the jurists in Serbia, and a monument that should remind us all of this bronze contribution of Professor Perovic, and this is why I will dare to confer a bronze plaque of the Belgrade University School of Law as a token of gratitude of all of us for everything that he has done, and I will reserve half a minute for a small gift. Professor Perovic actually has guilted the legal profession, and we will keep using this this heritage for years to come, and on behalf of his former students, where everything has actually originated, the Law School of Belgrade University would like to confer on Professor Perovic a gold coin as a permanent memory of this faculty and a symbol of our gratitude to Professor Perovic. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank the Dean of our School of Law for these noble words and style, and for the fortunate idea of the Faculty of Law to pay its debt to Professor Perovic. Now I kindly ask Mr. Meyer to address the audience.
So, since I was even in 12 years working here in the region, not able to learn Serbian, I do the same now consequently in Georgia and but Gamma Jobber I know, and this is welcome. Hello. 30 years of the Kopaonik School of Natural Law, and I'm proud being more than the half now member of that school, which is passionate for law as a topic, and Even when my very first meeting with an official was with, was with Professor Šakić in his position as a Deputy Minister of Justice, one of the early meetings was with Professor Perović. And if I remind right, that was about the publication of the declaration of the Kopaonik school in 6 languages, not only German but also English and Chinese, even Chinese. And doing something where Professor Orlic always insists that I did that, but I'm only a project manager. Even being a lawyer, not an important part of my function is to find experts which make expert opinions on drafts. And it was an easy thing to convince Professor Perović to make an opinion of the draft law on contracts in Bosnia. So I have to insist that the rescue was at least from the substantial part by Professor Perović.
Insistirao bih dakle da je to spašavanje zakona nešto čemu zapravo treba da zahvalimo prvenstveno profesoru Peroviću.
Law as a topic in development cooperation is something that becomes more and more popular if you see the Sustainable Development Goals. The first time the UN accepted that law is a value in itself.
Prvi put su zapravo Ujedinjene nacije prihvatile da je zakon vrednost sam po sebi.
And that access to justice is something what is needed to enable the world for sustainable development.
Da bi se omogućio dalji razvoj sveta.
And when we look for the topic of today's gathering, the relation between law and the reality, this is one of the functions of laws, to reflect reality. And before joining you, I was in a gathering in Germany on questions of digital change.
Koji se bavio rezultatima digitalnih promjena.
And our main topic was blockchain technology. I will not try to explain it because I have no idea about it.
Blockchain. Neću vam objašnjavati o čemu se tu radi jer ja zapravo nemam pojma.
But which will, together with artificial intelligence, maybe change the world again like internet does in the 90s.
Promjenama u svetu, kao što su se odigrale već 90. godina zahvaljujući internetu.
And it's the task of law to reflect this,
zadatak je dakle prava i zakona da se to sve odrazi,
to make it a tool and not something what overcomes the world like a flood.
Da ne dođe do jedne situacije gdje će svet biti preplavljen.
A tool for the human beings on the world.
Dakle, instrument koji će služiti ljudima i celom svetu.
And even when the German development cooperation changed from time to time, there are key topics.
Bez obzira što Nemačka organizacija za međunarodnu saradnju povremeno menja neke ključne teme kojima se bavi.
I can assure, even being here as a private lawyer,
uverim da čak i ovdje sa ove pozicije gdje sam prisutan u svojstvu privatnom
that Germany is participating in the development not only of Serbia,
učestvuje u razvoju ne samo Srbije,
of all the countries of the region,
već i u razvoju svih zemalja u regionu.
And saying to help the people for a life and dignity.
Želi da pomogne ljudima da ostvare dostojanstven život.
Thanks a lot for being a part of that.
Hvala vam najlepše što ste učesnici u svemu tome.
Thanks a lot for that honor.
Hvala najlepše.
Zahvaljujem doktoru Majeru na
I thank Mr. Mayer for the words with which he has addressed the audience. And I kindly ask Ms. Penny Booth, professor at the Open University of England.
Distinguished Professor Perovic, honored presidents, colleagues and friends all. It's a huge pleasure and a great honor for me to be here at the 30th conference at Kopaonik. I greet you all. What an achievement. 30 years of meetings, of opportunities to take part in discussions and contemplations of law, which I am certain, and we can all be certain, have contributed to the development of law and legal thinking. Legal conferences are, of course, not particularly rare. They happen frequently in many countries of the world. Perhaps what is more unusual in the situation of the Kopaonik School of Natural Law is the consistent meeting of minds and the regularity of opportunity, the openness and friendly collegiality of those who attend. I salute the achievement of such consistency and collegiality, which has been achieved through past times of conflict, danger, and social difficulty in the region. That is what makes Kopaonik different. You have been true to academic inquiry. You have been true to justice. And you have been true to law. Your very presence here and the existence of the Kopaonik School gives hope for a future of just law for everyone. Hvala.
Zahvaljujem se profesoru Penny
I thank Professor Penny Booth
divnim rečima.
for her wonderful words.
Doktora Zorana
I kindly ask
Rašovića,
Dr. Zoran Rašović,
člana
member
Crnogorske
of the
akademije
Montenegrin
nauka i umjetnosti,
Academy of Sciences and Arts,
se obrati.
to address the gathering. Distinguished Professor Perovic, distinguished Professor Orlic, distinguished Chair, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. 3 decades ago, we saw the birth of the Kopaonik School of Natural Law, a tremendous anniversary of this school, which is actually the reflection of justice, which has elucidated very intricate and complicated relations. Today, I'm filled with the feeling of profound gratitude for all its achievements. And as a result, I would like us to hear our voice in unison, which will express every acknowledgement to the accomplishments of this school achieved by Professor Perovic at the head of the school and all its participants, a voice which is expressed by us from Montenegro. The importance of this jubilee of the Kopaonik School of Natural Law and the wisdom of the organizers have imposed the topic of this year's conference, and that is just law and reality. Justice has always been among the foremost requirements because it is the fundament of all the countries, and therefore the Kopaonik School of Natural Law has, over all these years, been working and contributing to the proper reformation of the state and the law. Therefore, we need to acknowledge all the accomplishments of its participants who have made a contribution thanks to their knowledge of the law, their experience from their environments, as a result of which they have contributed to the organizer of this school in successfully organizing this school and accomplishing the results. The topic of this year's conference shows the devotion of the school to moral values as a very sensitive issue. Where can we add fresh air other than here in Kopaonik, the celestial heights? And allow me to say, from the perspective of this year's topic, that I would like to add some fresh air by citing the words of Prince Nicola, who said the following in 1888 at the promulgation of the property law. He said, "May every sound subside now, and may we only hear the voice of this law, which will contribute to justice and punish all those who violate it. Everyone, including the judges, are required by me to be strict in complying with this law and not to take into account who comes from where, which position one takes, what one's name is, what one's religion is." So you can see the seriosity of this message. Distinguished friends, life is reality. It is a compass which should not blunder. Of course, achieving absolute justice is not possible. We are deeply aware of the fact that in our systems and in our reality there is a lot of injustice. However, it is the task of us as lawyers and jurists to work on remedying that situation, thanks to the state of our mind and spirit and our endeavors to introduce justice everywhere. Distinguished friends, we are immediate witnesses to the fact that the Kopaonik School of Natural Law over the past 30 years has been a true support to reaching that balance, insisting on the just application of the law. Over the past 30 years, I have been a witness to all this, and let us thank it in public for that. We have to say that we're expecting it to continue along the same path in the future, but always firmly based in reality. That is something that I trust, and that is something that can be discerned of its own accord. The path of this school is supported by natural law, and that means just law. I wish this school to continue in the future even stronger and even more glorious and more visible than now, working on developing justice, as Prince Nicola said when promulgating the law in 1888 in Montenegro. I thank academician Rašović for his marvelous thoughts and for the words that he has pronounced so meticulously. I knew that he would be able to respond to the speech that we have heard from Ms. Booth in the nicest way. And therefore we have heard some very nice thoughts from the domestic environment. And now I kindly ask Professor Xavier Blanc-Jouvin to address our audience.
Distinguished Chairman, Professor Orlic, eminent Professor Perovic, dear colleagues and friends. It's a real privilege for me to be with you today to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Mount Kopaonik School of Natural Law. I would like to say how much pleased, honored, and thankful I feel to be here. Still, it is above all a sincere admiration I must express for the splendid work you have accomplished over these past 3 decades. A long experience has convinced me that it is a real feat for which I know of no equivalent in the world, to gather year after year so many scholars and jurists to confront in order to confront their views on law. And they do so in an atmosphere which is as studious as it is relaxed, as culturally enriching as it is open and friendly. For even if our debates are often lively, each one of your meetings is in its own way a feast of friendship. And I must confess that after a few years, I realized that this is a place where I have some of my best friends. No wonder the result is so impressive. But let's go a bit further. If there is one thing that unites us year after year, it is our faith in the values conveyed by natural law. This law for which you have always fought courageously in spite of all contrary events. Although these values, which constitute the 6 poles of your famous hexagon, justice, freedom, humanities, which are our common heritage, we know that they are not always recognized and respected as they ought to be. And although the outlook seems today somewhat better than it has been occasionally in the past, it doesn't mean that they are definitively safeguarded. We know, on the contrary, that these values are always imperiled, that new threats keep cropping up in each of our countries, and that the battle for them will never be over. And it is precisely this task, it is precisely the task of institutions such as yours to encourage each of us to remain active and vigilant in this field and to try and promote our ideal whenever and wherever we have a chance to contribute in any form, whether through teaching, judging, or why not drafting a civil code to the improvement of our law and justice. Should I also confess that I appreciate particularly your exceptional openness to the outside world. The participants in your meetings come from about everywhere, and your message is universal, for you have understood before many others that our future lies in growing solidarity. One of your sessions was devoted to international integration. No one will doubt that the call for natural law opens the way to the harmonization of laws as well as to rapprochement of people. Some phenomena that will certainly be beneficial to all as long as they do not lead to uniformity. For, as you have also shown in another session, human diversity is also, in a globalized world, a source of spiritual wealth. Even though we must all cooperate peacefully, each of us is attached to its own culture, and he has the right, not to say the duty, to defend it. But all of this is well known, and your achievements are sufficiently eloquent in this field. Everyone who has followed your action during the last 30 years realizes how much indebted to you we are. It is therefore by sincere thanks and fervent wishes that I want to conclude these remarks. My thanks go first to all the organizers, for I know the amount of work and devotion which are needed for the preparation of a conference such as this. And I'm particularly grateful to you, Professors Perovic and Orlic, for having allowed me, towards the end of my academic career, to sit as this chair once again. But my thanks are also due to you all, the participants who give real life to this school, and especially to those of you who have made possible in 30 years the publication of more than 100 books. As to my warmest wishes, you will have understood that they go to you all, so that the Mount Kopaonik School of Natural Law may pursue its action for long and know in the future the same success as we are witnessing today. As a French guest, finally, I may add this very personal wish. that this school continues to maintain and develop the Franco-Serbian traditional friendship to which the jurists of my country are so profoundly attached, and which, probably because it was also born under difficult circumstances, has already stood up to many a storm and successfully resisted the passage of time, or, more poetically, in Hamlet's words, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Thank you.
Zahvaljujem profesoru Blanjuvanu.
Thank you, Professor Blanjovan.
Dužan sam da
And I have to say
njegove ne male
that
zasluge
Professor Blanjovan
promovisanju
has greatly contributed to promoting the idea of the Kopaonik School of Natural Law abroad.
učešća
After his numerous participations in the Kopaonik School of Natural Law, every year he wrote a broad report in the International Comparative Law Review. And this is how the voice from the Kopaonik School reached those people abroad who haven't had an opportunity to be with us on Mount Kopaonik.
navešću samo iz jednog njegovog
I will just
takvog osvrta nekoliko reči.
quote a few words from one of Professor Blanjovan's report. I was a bit surprised. The restaurants are full while the sessions are in progress, and the promenades are congested. Young people, boys and girls,
Centra
all over the Congress Center where the conference is taking place. The dancing room is so crowded that you cannot get into it. There are no, the patisseries are packed to the capacities, but also all the conference rooms are also full.
Molim sada
And now I'd like to invite Mr. Sami Akl, advisor to the president of the International Lawyers Union, to address you.
Dear colleagues, Slobodan Perovic remains the same person after 30 years of continued activity at the Kopaonik School of Natural Law. During his speeches, he looks like Mirabeau or Montesquieu or Carbonnier, a torrent which doesn't stop for 1 hour, 2 hours, and more, leaving the audience enjoying the language made easy by his eloquence. The richness of Kopaonik is also due to the eminent professors and speakers who present every year the summation of their researches and innovations. I salute you, Professor Perovic, in this commemoration, especially as you have left the posterity an intelligible artwork without snags or artifice. Tolstoy has said, the works are great only because they are accessible to the public and comprehensible by them.
što ih javnost razume.
This is the case of Professor Slobodan Perovic.
Isto važi i za profesora Slobodana.
We are proud of you because you left the important school to humanity.
Čovečanstvu ostavili jednu važnu školu.
And we hope this will be continued by eminent Professor Orlic and his staff.
Tako nastaviti i uvaženi profesor Orlic.
Happy anniversary to all of you. Thank you.
Svima vam želim srećnu godišnjicu.
Zahvaljujem se gospodinu Aklu.
Thank you, Mr. Akl, for your well-chosen words
Lijepim poređenjima
and for beautiful comparison
korist profesora Perovića.
for Professor Perovic.
Gospodina
And now I'd like to invite Mr. Ivica Stankovic, Supreme State Prosecutor of Montenegro,
se obrati.
to take the floor. Distinguished academician Perovic, distinguished Professor Orlic, distinguished colleagues, representatives of both jurisprudence and jurisdiction, ladies and gentlemen. If this wasn't the 30th anniversary, it would nevertheless be a great pleasure to offer introductory remarks at the opening of the Kopaonik School of Natural Law and to actually embed it in the fine fabric of Kopaonik School of Natural Law and to contribute to the Kopaonik narrative, to live up to the expectations, to speak about ideas without being too long in one's address. If everything is so inspiring, the moment, the idea, the topic, the moment when we actually present the an ancient heritage of our school, the idea that there is an order or system that links justice, law, and society, and the measure of all that. The moment is ever so inspiring because the 30th anniversary is celebrated at the end of the year when we celebrate 170 years since the publication of Gorski Vijenac, or Bajnjegoš, or the mountain reed, and next year we will be celebrating 130th anniversary of the Montenegrin Civil Code. And the topic of just law and reality smacks strongly of an idea that while we maintain a measure of all things that belong to reason and the meaning and purpose of the law, if we don't know that, then the text of the law will be useless. Njegoš and Bogišić's words are equally important today at the time of post-truth, at the time when we can rightfully ask whether in the post-truth time can we talk about post-justice and post-law. If we're living in the times where we have these contours of post-society, if we talk about divine law and divine natural law, and finally about the natural law as such, the question is whether today we can speak about post-natural law. These are the questions that we cannot find a consensus to. This is the crisis of postulates, and in the context of our topic, it's the crisis of the theoretical concept of justice and the crisis of the life context that we call society. Someone has said that law is far from justice as far as the earth is far from the sky. Is it actually something that created law, the ego of society? And sometimes one has an impression that law emerged because the right became wrong and for the wrong to become right. And indeed, when Christ was crucified and this was contrary to justice, although it was according to the law. And Đuro Šušnjić says that scientific reason cannot be moved without a philosophical mind, and thus law cannot be rational and operational beyond the irrational principle of justice. Well, in fact, it can, but in that case, we are not talking about law, but a system of norms alienated from its value paradigm, as formulated by Saint Augustine. Unfair human regulations cannot be called legal regulations, and this brings us to the antithesis to fiat justitia et ferat mundus. Justice shall be served even though the whole world collapses. Ladies and gentlemen, there are three prerequisites that the relationship between law and justice is based upon, and effectiveness of just law in society: ontological, gnoseological, and axiological. According to the ontological assumption, we believe that there is justice, and as Grzegorz says, according to the gnoseological assumption, we believe that justice can be understood and actually created in reality, and we believe that the justice is a value per se that should be implemented and put to life. With this, I would like to close my remarks and wish you all success and congratulate the 30th anniversary. Thank you.
Zahvaljujem gospodinu Ivici Stankoviću.
I thank Mr. Ivica Stankovic for his fine thoughts and well-chosen words. And with this speech, we have completed the list of speakers who were to address us.